What happens when the weakest wolf in the pack discovers she was never weak at all? For Alara Stone, life had always meant silence. As the only Omega daughter of beta wolves in the Silvercrest pack, she'd learned early that survival meant making herself small, invisible, forgettable. She served at pack gatherings. She lowered her eyes when alphas passed. She pressed down the strange warmth that sometimes flickered in her chest, the sensation that something vast and ancient slept just beneath her skin, waiting. But when Alpha Darius Blackthorn rejected her as his fated mate in front of the entire pack under the harvest moon, everything changed. And what happens next, no one was prepared for. Not the pack that cast her out to die, not the ancient guardians who found her broken body in the snow, and certainly not Alara herself, because the girl who crawled into that frozen wilderness would not be the one who emerged. The harvest moon hung fat and golden over the EB Silvercrest ceremonial grounds. Hundreds of wolves, human-formed but thrumming with barely contained power, filled the ancient stone circle. The air was thick with anticipation, with the mingled sense of excitement and dominance and hunger. Alara stood at the edge of the crowd, as she always did. Her simple gray dress marked her as what she was, Omega, servant, beneath notice. But tonight, everything felt different. The mate bond had snapped into place 3 days ago. She'd been carrying firewood to the Alpha's lodge when it hit her, a golden thread of destiny wrapping around her heart, pulling taut, leading directly to Darius Blackthorn himself, the future Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in 3 territories. Her wolf had stirred within for the first time in years, whimpering with desperate hope. Alara had told no one. How could she? Omegas didn't mate with alphas. It simply didn't happen. The hierarchy was sacred, ordained by the moon goddess herself. Yet the bond thrummed between them, undeniable, a secret symphony only she could hear. Until tonight. Darius stood at the center of the circle in formal black, his presence commanding absolute attention. His scent, forest and embers, ozone and steel, made her wolf whine with need. At 28, he was in his prime, all controlled power and devastating authority. Every unmated female in 3 packs had her eyes on him, especially Seraphina Ashwood. The beta's daughter prowled at Darius's side, her beauty sharp as a blade, her wolf strong enough to lead beside an alpha. Her scent of cinnamon and iron cut through the crowd. She smiled with absolute confidence, her hand possessive on Darius's arm. "The harvest moon is a time of binding," declared Elder Matthias, his ancient voice carrying across the silent gathering. "Tonight, our future alpha will announce his chosen mate. The bloodline of Silvercrest will be secured." Alara's heart hammered. The bond pulled at her, insistent, undeniable. Surely Darius felt it too. Surely the moon goddess's will couldn't be ignored. Darius stepped forward, and every eye fixed on him. "I have made my choice," he said, his voice resonating with alpha command. The crowd held its breath. Then his gaze found Alara. Time stopped. The bond blazed between them, visible now as a shimmering golden thread only those with the sight could see. Gasps rippled through the crowd, murmurs of shock, of disbelief. "Impossible," someone whispered. Darius's jaw clenched. For one heartbeat, Alara saw something flicker in his eyes, recognition, perhaps even regret. Then his expression hardened into something cold and absolute. "I, Darius Blackthorn, future alpha of Silvercrest, reject the bond the moon goddess has offered." His words fell like stones into still water. "I reject Alara Stone as my mate." The world tilted. Physical pain erupted through Alara's chest as the bond began to sever, not a clean break, but a tearing like flesh being ripped from bone. She doubled over, gasping, as fire and ice warred in her veins. "An Omega?" Seraphina's laugh was cruel and delighted. "The moon goddess blessed you with an Omega? How unfortunate that you're wise enough to refuse such an insult." The crowd's shock transformed into ugly amusement. Laughter, mockery. Darius continued, each word a nail in a coffin. "I choose Seraphina Ashwood as my mate, a beta worthy of standing beside an alpha, not some weak, powerless Omega who can barely shift." The bond snapped. Alara screamed. The pain was beyond anything she'd imagined. her soul being carved in half, her wolf howling in agony, her very essence fracturing. She collapsed to the cold stone, distantly aware of blood trickling from her nose. "Remove her," Darius ordered, his voice devoid of emotion. "She is no longer welcome in this pack." Two guards hauled her up, her legs unable to support her weight. Through the haze of agony, she saw her parents in the crowd. Her father, Beta Marcus Stone, turned his face away. Her mother, Lydia, wept but didn't move. They did nothing. "Please," Alara managed to whisper, but the word was lost in the crowd's continued laughter. The guards dragged her through the ceremonial grounds, past the rows of witnesses, every face either mocking or carefully blank. No one helped. No one spoke in her defense. They threw her beyond the pack's borders as the first snow began to fall. The temperature was dropping fast. The first blizzard of winter was coming. "Consider this mercy," one guard said, not unkindly. "The Alpha could have demanded your execution for the insult of such a bond." Then they were gone, and Alara was alone. The blizzard hit with savage force. Alara stumbled through the darkening forest, her thin dress already soaked through, her bare feet numb. The severed mate bond throbbed like an open wound, making every step agony. Her wolf was silent, retreating deep within, wounded beyond response. She had no direction, no destination. The packlands were forbidden to her now. The human towns were days away through territory filled with rogues and predators, and the storm was intensifying, wind howling through the trees like the screams of the damned. "This is how I die," she thought distantly. Alone, rejected, forgotten. The cruel irony was that some part of her had always known it would end this way. She'd been different since birth. Her wolf had emerged late. Most pups shifted by 12, but hers had waited until 15, and even then, it was small, weak, barely there. Her parents had looked at her with something like disappointment from her earliest memories. Now she understood why. Through the driving snow, she glimpsed a structure, an abandoned barn, half collapsed but offering minimal shelter from the killing cold. She crawled inside, her body shaking violently, her lips blue. The barn smelled of old hay and mouse droppings and decay. A wave of power washed over her as she collapsed onto the rotting floor, but it was the power of death approaching, not salvation. Her wolf stirred within, so faintly she almost missed it, a whisper of apology, of goodbye. "I'm sorry," Alara breathed to the creature who'd been her other half. "I wasn't strong enough for either of us." The cold was almost pleasant now. Her shaking had stopped. She knew what that meant. Her eyes drifted closed. This is it. She accepted it with the same silence that had defined her life. Warmth. That was the first thing that pierced the darkness. Warmth and the scent of winter snow and aged oak and pine. The scent of storm itself, wild and clean and impossibly powerful. Alara's eyes fluttered open. 10 wolves surrounded her. No, not wolves, not exactly. They were massive, each one the size of a small horse, their forms somehow more solid than reality itself. Their fur rippled with colors she had no names for, midnight blues and silver whites and stormy grays that seemed to shift and flow like water. 1, 2, 3. She counted through her haze. 4, 5, 6. They'd formed a circle around her, their bodies radiating heat, their presence a wall between her and death. 7, 8, 9. The 10th sat directly before her, and he was the largest of all. His coat was pure silver white, his eyes an impossible shade of amber gold that seemed to see straight through her soul. Power radiated from him in waves, ancient and terrible and utterly controlled. Those eyes held wisdom, recognition, purpose. Alara tried to speak, but her voice was gone. The massive wolf lowered his head. She felt his warm breath against her frozen skin. Then, impossible as it seemed, she heard his voice in her mind, deep, resonant, absolute. "We've been waiting for you, little matriarch." Reality blurred. She woke to firelight and the scent of burning pine. Alara was inside a cave wrapped in furs that were impossibly soft and warm. The 10 wolves remained, though now they'd arranged themselves throughout the space, some resting, others standing guard. A man sat by the fire. He was perhaps 40, with silver-gray hair and the kind of scarred, weathered face that spoke of countless battles survived, but his eyes, those amber gold eyes, were the same as the great silver wolf's. "You're awake," he said, his voice the same one that had spoken in her mind. "Good. We weren't certain you'd survive the transition." Alara pushed herself upright, her body aching but functional. The mate bond's pain had receded to a dull throb. "Who are you?" "My name is Cale Stormborn." He gestured to the wolves around them. "We are the Shadow Guard, the Unchained. We've been searching for you for 23 years. "Me?" Her voice cracked. "I'm nobody. You are the matriarch reborn." His words were absolute, allowing no argument. "The prophesied one, the wolf who will rise when the packs have fallen into corruption, when strength is valued over wisdom, when the old ways have been forgotten." Alara shook her head, pulling the furs tighter. "There's been a mistake. I'm an Omega. I can barely shift. I have no power." Kyle's expression was gentle but implacable. "You have no power because it was bound when you were an infant. Hidden. Locked away so completely that even you didn't know it existed." The world seemed to tilt again. "What? Your parents?" Kyle paused, choosing his words carefully. "They are not evil people, Ilara, but they are afraid people. When you were born, every seer in 3 territories felt your power emerge. They declared you the matriarch, the one from the old prophecies, the one who would change everything." He stood, moving to the cave entrance where snow still fell in soft curtains. "Your parents feared what that would mean, the attention, the danger, the expectations. So they sought out a witch, and they bound your power so deeply that it became invisible. They made you Omega by force, not by nature." Rage bubbled up, hot and unfamiliar. "They crippled me. They thought they were protecting you." Kyle turned back. "But magic always seeks balance. The moon goddess always finds a way." "The mate bond," Alara whispered. "Exactly. Darius Blackthorn is not your true mate. The bond was the goddess's tool. When he rejected you, when he shattered that connection with such cruelty, the magical backlash destroyed the binding on your power." Kyle's smile was fierce. "He didn't just reject you, Alara. He freed you." As if in response to his words, something stirred deep within her chest. "Hello, little one," a voice purred, female, ancient, vast beyond measure. "I've missed you." Alara gasped. "Is that your wolf?" Kyle confirmed. "Your true wolf, not the small, weak creature the binding allowed. Meet her properly." "I am Lyra," the wolf said, and her voice was like silver bells and thunder combined. "I am your strength, your rage, your power. I am what they feared." "I don't understand," Alara said, but even as she spoke, she could feel it, power unfurling within her like a flower opening to the sun. Her senses sharpened, the scent of lavender and morning dew and wildflowers. Her own scent, she realized, grew stronger, more complex. "The prophecy speaks of you," Kyle said, moving to an ancient pack propped against the cave wall. He drew out a scroll, its parchment yellowed with age. "Let me read you the words every guardian has memorized since birth." His voice took on a ritual quality as he recited, "When the moon bleeds red and the packs forget their honor, when strength alone is worshipped and the weak are cast to winter, the matriarch will rise from death's cold threshold. She will be marked by betrayal, born in suffering, crowned in starlight. She will command not through force, but through truth. She will come when hope is lost, and she will bring the old magic home." The words resonated in Alara's bones. "There are 10 of you," she said, counting the wolves again. "Why 10? "One for each of the original packs," answered a new voice. Another man had shifted to human form, younger than Kyle, perhaps 30, with dark skin and kind eyes. "I'm Rowan. I represent the Riverstone bloodline." One by one, the others shifted. 9 men and 1 woman, all bearing the marks of warriors, all regarding Alara with expressions of reverence and fierce protectiveness. "We are sworn to the matriarch," said the woman, tall, with braided red hair and a scar across her cheek. "I'm Astrid, Northwind bloodline. We've been waiting for you since the last matriarch fell 300 years ago." Trust them, Lyra whispered. They are ours. I still don't understand, Alara said, but even as doubt colored her words, she felt the truth of it settling into her soul. What do I... Let me show you, Kyle said. He approached slowly, his hand extended. May I? She nodded. His palm pressed against her forehead, warm and steady, and suddenly knowledge flooded through her, not memories, but instinct. Ancient wisdom coded into her very DNA. How to shift, how to access the power, how to become what she was always meant to be. Now, Kale said, stepping back, call your wolf. Let her rise. Alara closed her eyes and reached inward, past the pain, past the fear, past 23 years of learned helplessness. She found Lyra waiting. Ready? Her wolf asked. Yes. The transformation began. But it was nothing like the shifts she'd struggled through before, those painful, incomplete changes that left her exhausted and ashamed. This was power incarnate. This was becoming. Her bones didn't snap. They flowed, reforming with liquid grace. Her skin tingled as fur erupted, not the dull gray of her previous wolf, but silver white streaked with threads of gold. Her senses exploded outward. She could smell the pine trees. Miles away, hear the heartbeats of rabbits sleeping in their burrows, feel the pull of the moon itself through layers of stone. And she grew, larger than any wolf she'd ever seen, larger than the alphas who'd mocked her, larger even than the Shadow Guard themselves. Energy erupted from her in concentric waves, shaking the cave, sending small avalanches of snow cascading from the entrance. Her eyes, she knew without seeing, blazed with supernatural light, violet, like the rarest of gemstones. When the transformation completed, Alara stood on 4 powerful legs, towering over the gathered guardians. Her fur shimmered with its own inner light. Power sang through every muscle. She was magnificent. She was terrifying. She was exactly what she was meant to be. Lyra's consciousness merged fully with hers, and Alara threw back her head and howled. The sound shook the mountain. It echoed across the territories. In Silvercrest, hundreds of miles away, wolves would later speak of hearing something vast and ancient and undeniable call out to the moon. When silence returned, Kyle knelt before her in human form, his head bowed. She is the matriarch, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The prophecy is fulfilled. The other guardians followed, dropping to one knee, their fists pressed over their hearts. And Alara, no longer the powerless Omega, no longer the rejected mate, no longer the girl who'd crawled into the wilderness to die, accepted their oath. The days turned to weeks. Alara learned to control her shifting, moving between forms with the ease of breathing. She discovered abilities she'd never imagined, empathic sensing that let her feel the emotions of those around her, healing power that could mend wounds with a touch, and a voice of command that made even the strongest alphas pause. But more than power, she found family. Rowan taught her to fight, his patient instruction transforming her from victim to warrior. Astrid showed her the old magics, the ways of reading moon phases and speaking to the spirits of the land. A guardian named Finn, with laughing green eyes, taught her strategy and pack politics. Each of the 10 became precious to her. Kyle with his steady wisdom, Mira with her fierce joy, Thorn with his quiet strength. They trained her, protected her, challenged her. They believed in her when she still doubted herself. And slowly, carefully, Alara began to believe too. She practiced controlling the empathic bonds, learning to sense truth from lies, fear from courage. She discovered she could heal not just physical wounds, but spiritual ones, drawing out poison from corrupted bonds, soothing traumatized wolves. You're not meant to rule through fear, Kyle told her one evening as they sat watching the sunset paint the snow pink and gold. Alphas rule through dominance, but matriarchs rule through truth, through wisdom, through the kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself. His scent. Winter. Snow and aged oak and pine had become as familiar as her own heartbeat. The bond forming between them wasn't the forced destiny of a mate bond, but something deeper. Choice, trust, love earned through shared purpose. She was no longer who she had been. She'd stopped being that girl the moment the pack cast her out. She was Alara Stormborn now, taking Kale's family name as her own, as was the matriarch's right when choosing her sentinel. And she was ready. The scout stumbled into Silvercrest at dawn, bleeding and terrified. "She lives," he gasped to the assembled alphas. "The Omega lives, and she's not alone." Darius Blackthorn felt something cold settle in his gut. "Explain." "There are 10 of them, massive wolves, and her Alpha, I've never seen anything like her. She's enormous, glowing, Impossible," Seraphina snapped, though her scent betrayed her fear. "Omegas can't survive winters like that. She's dead." "I saw her," the scout insisted. "She looked right at me. Her eyes, they were violet, purple like amethyst, and when she howled, the mountain shook." Darius's claws extended involuntarily. The mate bond he'd rejected throbbed like a phantom limb, a mistake he'd realized the moment it was done, though pride had kept him from admitting it. "Gather a war party," he ordered. 20 of our best fighters. If there are rogues in the mountains claiming to be something they're not, we'll handle them." But in his heart, Darius knew. He'd made a mistake, not a small one, a catastrophic one. They came at twilight, 22 warriors in wolf form, led by Darius himself. Seraphina prowled at his side, her cinnamon and iron scent sharp with anticipation. The Shadow Guard met them at the territory's edge, a clearing ringed by ancient pines where the snow lay pristine and undisturbed. Alara stood in human form, wrapped in furs lined with silver, flanked by Kyle and Astrid. The other 8 guardians arranged themselves, in a loose semicircle, relaxed but ready. Darius shifted to human form, and his war party followed. In human form, the size difference was less pronounced, but the power differential was blindingly obvious. "You dare claim these lands?" Darius demanded, his voice carrying the weight of alpha command. Alara smiled, and it was nothing like the timid expression he remembered. "I claim nothing, Darius Blackthorn. These lands have always belonged to the matriarch. You simply forgot." "There is no matriarch," Seraphina snarled, stepping forward. "Just legends and children's tales. You're a pathetic Omega playing dress-up with rogues." "Am I?" Alara's voice was mild, almost amused. The scent of lavender and morning dew and wildflowers drifted from her, but underneath it was something new, ozone and starlight and ancient magic. "Perhaps you'd like to test that theory?" Seraphina attacked. It was stupid, reckless, driven by jealousy and fear. She shifted mid-leap, her brown wolf large, and strong and utterly inadequate. Alara didn't even move. Lyra surged forward, taking control, and in the space between heartbeats, Alara's human form exploded into the massive silver-white wolf. She was easily twice Seraphina's size, radiating power that made the very air shimmer. One massive paw caught Seraphina mid-leap and pinned her to the ground with contemptuous ease. The brown wolf struggled, snarling, but she might as well have tried to move a mountain. Alara's violet eyes blazed, and she spoke directly into every mind present, her voice resonating with undeniable authority. "Submit or die. Choose now." Seraphina whimpered and went limp, exposing her throat. Darius's war party stood frozen in shock. Several had begun to back away. "Shadow Guard," Kyle said quietly. "Show them." As one, the 10 guardians shifted. They were not normal wolves. They were dire wolves, creatures from the oldest legends, each one larger than any alpha, their forms crackling with barely contained power. Their eyes glowed with supernatural light, gold and silver and electric blue. The war party broke. Several wolves turned and fled outright. Others dropped to their bellies, a whining submission. Even Darius's strongest fighters couldn't hide their terror. Only Darius himself remained standing, though his face had gone pale. "Mercy," he said, and the words seemed to cost him everything. Slowly, with visible effort, the proud alpha knelt. "Matriarch, I beg mercy." Alara shifted back to human form, Seraphina still pinned beneath one hand. She looked down at the woman who'd mocked her, who'd laughed as she was cast out to die. "You wanted to be Luna," Alara said softly, "to rule beside an alpha, to have power and prestige." Seraphina's eyes were wide with fear. "I strip your rank," Alara continued. You are no longer Beta. You will serve the pack as Omega for 1 year, and perhaps you will learn what strength truly means. If you survive with humility and tact, your rank may be restored. If not, she let the threat hang unfinished. Thank you, Serafina whispered, and genuine relief colored her scent. Alara released her and turned to Darius. And you? The former Alpha flinched. You rejected the bond the moon goddess offered. You chose ambition over destiny. You cast me out to die. Each word was measured, calm. Give me one reason I shouldn't strip you of your rank as well. I have none, Darius said, his voice hollow. I deserve whatever punishment you decree. Alara studied him for a long moment. You will remain Alpha of Silvercrest for now, but you will rule under my law. No wolf will be cast out for being Omega. No strength will be valued over compassion. The old ways will return, or you will be replaced. She stepped closer, and the power radiating from her made him tremble. I am Alara Stormborn, matriarch reborn, she declared, her voice carrying to every wolf present. This is my territory, all the territories from the northern ice to the southern seas. You will submit to my judgment, or you will leave. We submit, Darius said, and meant it. Around him, his war party echoed the oath. There will be a new gathering, Alara continued, at the next full moon. Every pack will send representatives. We will establish new laws, a new order. The corruption ends now. She looked past Darius to where her parents stood at the edge of the clearing, Marcus and Lydia Stone, their faces wet with tears. You bound my power, Alara said to them. Out of fear, you crippled your own daughter. We're sorry, her mother sobbed. We were afraid. You will have the chance to earn forgiveness, Alara said. But it will take time, perhaps years. The pain you caused cannot be erased with simple apologies. Marcus bowed his head. We understand. We will spend however long it takes. Alara nodded once, then turned to Kyle. He shifted to human form and came to stand beside her, his hand finding hers. The simple gesture spoke volumes. This is Kale Stormborn, my sentinel, Alara announced, my chosen mate, my equal. A wave of power washed over the clearing as the bond snapped into place, not forced by the moon goddess, but chosen freely by both parties. It was clean and bright and true, and it made the rejected bond with Darius feel like a pale shadow by comparison. Kyle raised their joined hands. The matriarch has risen. Spread the word to every pack. The old magic has come home. 3 months later, Alara stood at the center of a transformed ceremonial ground. Every pack in the territories had sent representatives. The old hierarchy was being rebuilt piece by piece, with wisdom at its foundation rather than brute strength. Omegas no longer cowered. They stood proud, their gifts recognized and valued. Healers, empaths, peacekeepers, each one essential. The Shadow Guard had become her council, advisors drawn from every bloodline, ensuring all voices were heard. Kyle stood at her right hand, his steady presence a constant anchor. The mate bond between them thrummed with joy and purpose. Their union had been celebrated under the full moon, and though Alara knew challenges still lay ahead, she faced them with confidence she'd never imagined possessing. Darius had kept his word, implementing her laws with surprising dedication. She'd seen genuine remorse in his actions, genuine change. Perhaps in time, he might even earn redemption. Serafina had completed 2 months of her Omega service. The experience was humbling her, reshaping her understanding of strength. Alara's parents worked tirelessly to make amends, and slowly, cautiously, Alara was learning to forgive. Trust would take longer, but forgiveness was a start. As the sun set on the gathering, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, Alara felt Lyra stir contentedly within. We've come far, little one, her wolf murmured. We have, Alara agreed. But this is only the beginning. In the distance, the moon began to rise, tinged red at its edges, bleeding crimson into the darkness. A blood moon, and with it the scent of something ancient stirring, something that had slumbered for centuries, waiting for the matriarch's return to wake. Kyle felt her tension and squeezed her hand. What is it? The prophecy mentioned the blood moon, Alara said softly. The matriarch will rise when the moon bleeds red, but I don't think it was talking about my awakening. What then? She turned to face him, her violet eyes serious. I think it was talking about what comes next. Astrid approached, her expression grim. Scouts report movement in the Deadlands. The barrier our ancestors built is failing. What was it holding back? Rowan asked, joining them. Alara looked at the bleeding moon and felt the weight of destiny settle more firmly on her shoulders. Whatever it was, it knows I'm here now. It's coming. But fear didn't touch her. She was no longer the powerless Omega who'd been cast into the snow to die. She was no longer alone. She was the matriarch, surrounded by her guard, beloved by her mate, supported by wolves who'd learned what true strength meant. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. And so, Alara's journey from victim to survivor to queen became legend. The girl who'd suffered in silence found her voice and used it to reshape the world. She learned that true strength isn't about dominance or power. It's about choosing compassion over vengeance, wisdom over wrath, love over fear. Sometimes the cruelest rejection is actually the greatest gift. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover who you really are. And sometimes the people who cast you out are the ones who set you free. What would you have done in Alara's place? Would you have shown mercy, or would vengeance have tasted too sweet? If you enjoyed this story, please like and share it with fellow wolf lovers. Leave a comment telling me which character was your favorite. I love hearing from you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next chapter in this saga. Because the blood moon is rising, the Deadlands are waking, and Alara's greatest challenge is still to come. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next chapter.